this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. I have to say, I feel incredibly blessed with the people that I have been fortunate enough to connect with throughout my travels in this work. And our guest today is one of those people that I was fortunate enough to meet this year at a retreat that we both attended, and then a summit that we both attended. And learning more about what she has going on in her practice, I thought she would be a wonderful guest. So this will be a consulting episode. She does have a question for us, but it's really just an exchange of both of our experiences and supporting one another on this journey. So Ann Simmons, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julia. I'm so excited to be here and getting a chance to talk to you.
I am thrilled to have you. This makes things so much fun. When you've been in the person's presence, you've felt their energy, you know that they're doing great things in the world, and I get to just share you with even more people. So introduce yourself to everyone, let them know your background and what you are doing currently.
Sure, happy to. So, like I said, my name is Ann Simmons. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, and I am a clinical social worker. So, my journey didn't start until much later in life. I was a stay-at-home mom for many, many years. And when my youngest went into kindergarten, I thought, okay, it's time to do something different. And I went back to school and finished an undergrad degree in human services and quickly realized that a bachelor's degree was not going to cut it. So I needed to definitely move into a master's degree at some point. So I started doing the research and realized social work was probably the best road for me to go down. It offered me a lot of flexibility. So I finished my bachelor's degree in August. By the end of August, I was starting my master's degree, and that was a 3-year program. So I graduated in 2015. And immediately just started worked in a lot of different agencies as far as nonprofits go, a hospital and a cancer program. And quickly realized that I originally thought for some reason I wanted to do macro type of social work and policy and program development and all of that. And I did do some of that out of grad school and realized I wanted to do more. And I wanted to help, particularly in this one setting, I was working with a lot of parents, and I wanted to help them. And I kept running into roadblocks and not being able to do the things that I wanted to do. So I was working on my clinical license in social work in South Carolina. You have to do like an additional 2 years after you graduate with your master's. So I was working on that anyway, and I have a very good friend she was about 6 months ahead of me. We went to grad school together. Yeah. And so she helped me really get started. She's like, Ann, you can totally open up your own practice. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. And she's like, yeah, you can. And so with her help, I did it. I got my clinical license at the end of it was 2018, I think. And then by March of the following year, I had opened up my solo practice, and I did that for a couple of years, did some adjunct teaching, and was listening to a lot of podcasts because it was about a 50-minute drive to the campus. And, and I kept hearing about, starting a group practice. Maybe you could do that. And I kept thinking, should I? And thinking about the phone calls I was getting. And at that point I was I was trained in EMDR. I was working on my certification. I had completed my certification by that point and thought, I could offer so much more to our community if I could start a group practice and get some like-minded therapists on staff and create an environment that I felt like I missed out on with some of my work experience.
Sure.
So I did that. We opened in 2021. So we're 2 years in, and I currently have 3 therapists and 2 admin, and we're insurance based. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today.
What a journey, and I'm so glad we went through all of that. So I knew some, but not all.
Yeah.
And what an inspiration. I think that that's such a testament to the fact that we can really start this at any time. And if you are committed to it, and if you found something that really aligns with who you are, and you stay the course,
Right.
Look where you are now. That's amazing.
Yeah. I would not have ever, I wouldn't have guessed I would open up a solo practice when I was in grad school, because I kept saying, no, I want to do the program development thing. And then, that happened.
Yeah.
And a group practice was not even on my radar.
Wow.
And then that kind of hit the radar, and here we are. So.
And it's also a nice blend of so much of your previous experience, because even though you had considered the macro level, there are still elements that we incorporate in our group when we have to take all of our policies and put them on paper and draft a manual, and we have to come up with procedures for different things that come up. So I can see how you're still utilizing a lot of that skill set.
Yeah, to some degree. I think more so trying to get into more of that now with trying to find some new things to offer. I feel insurance in my community, I feel like it's really needed right now, particularly. But it's also very limiting as far as the income that you can earn. And then also that limits how much I can pay my therapists. So trying to find some additional streams of revenue to just be able to buffer some of that so I can pay them what they're worth.
Right.
Because I have a couple who, one has been with me for over 2 years, and another one who'll be 2 years in February. So, I love them. They're great. So I definitely want to be able to keep them as long as possible.
I can relate so much to that. Being a fellow insurance-based practice owner, I believe in it. I want accessible and affordable mental health care, but you do hit a glass ceiling, and I have found it can be incredibly limiting, exactly like you're describing, when you want to incentivize good work, when you want to obviously promote or enhance or just improve things, and the insurance companies are not regularly providing raises and are nowhere near what we could be charging. But they're hand in hand, right? I mean, we give some and we take some, where I can also see how marketing is not as much of a challenge, and filling caseload is not necessarily as difficult if we were private pay. And so it's challenging, but there are also some benefits to it. And so I love how you're exploring some other avenues and things that you can do that are not as limiting. So fill everyone in on what you've been considering adding and what you started to add.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things, and I already added it to my offerings because I am certified in EMDR, as I started offering intensives a few months ago. And the ones that I have done, I've probably done 5 or 6 of them now. And oh my gosh, it's so amazing how I feel after them, and the progress my clients have made in doing those intensives has just blown my mind. It's, of course, it's a cash pay service. It's I don't have the restrictions of insurance. We don't have a lot of we do have a little bit of time restriction, but not like you do when you have a 50, 55 minute session.
Exactly.
So it has just, I'm tired after them, but I feel so energized at the same time. So it's been an exciting offering to have. It's just, I've not been able to really get the word out about it and let people know. Plus, I also have the confines of my own schedule, a caseload that I still feel like I have to carry. So I'm not quite sure how to to balance all of that, get the word out, but make room in my caseload, to do the intensives, because I have to shift things, particularly if somebody wants to do like a full day,
Yes.
or even a multiple day one in 1 week, where I've got regular clients already in place. So, that's kind of the hard thing. How do you clear some room in your schedule, which I guess I'm getting onto our question that we were going to talk about.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Clear room in my schedule so I can have the availability for that, but still feel like I need to bring in clients,
right?
And, contribute to that bottom line right now.
Sure.
And really just get the word out about it. We put it on my website. We've done a little bit on social media about it. I did put a blast on our local Facebook group. But that was when I first done it. So, first started it. So there's, I think, a lot more that I could do.
Yeah.
And it is a specialty service. So I know it's not going to be like everybody's going to be able to afford to do it. So anyway.
First of all, what a great position to be in. So you have worked really hard to get to this point. You have something that clearly people are interested in, and the passion that you have for it and the excitement with what you've already experienced is palpable. So that's incredible. I'm curious how you filled the intensives that you've already had, and I'm also curious how you structure them. So how much time does it take, and what spacing in between?
Sure. So the ones that I have, people found it on Google. We put it on our website, and we've been working really hard on our SEO and all of that stuff on our website for the last, year and a half, 2 years. So I feel like we're getting some traction. Yeah. The folks that have found it knew what they were looking for. They knew what an intensive was. They were committed to that kind of process. So that's kind of how I found them. It was just kind of through Google and the website, which is great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would love to have a few more, because that has kind of dried up too. I haven't seen as much traffic about it. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
And it was, how do you structure it? So how long do they run, and how much spacing ideally in between?
All right, so I structure it in different ways. I've offered a 3-hour intensive, which really it adds up to about 6 hours worth of therapy. I have a 9-hour, which is like 6 hours of intensive work. And then there's a 3-day option where you would do 3 days for 3 hours each day, which nobody has taken me up on that one yet. I've done a couple full days, and those have been exhausting, but amazing. So typically the structure of it is I have a workbook that I put together after I do my consultation with the client. And send that to them, have them fill it out, return it to me. And that really gives me a lot of good information about where they are, what we need to work on. And then I have a session with them that lasts usually about 90 minutes. And we talk about the different things that we need to work on. What I saw in the workbook, what they feel like that they need to focus on, that type of things. I have thrown in an extra session in between that one and the longer session if I felt like we needed to do some extra work on coping mechanisms or making sure they have some resources available to them to manage distress. So that's kind of the beginning. And then we have our day of hopefully processing the memory. Using EMDR, I also use one called constructed awareness. I do both of those. And then we do a follow-up. So we give them another piece of the workbook after we meet for the longer processing. And then we meet for a third session just to follow up, usually about a week and a half to 2 weeks after the processing. So I can get a feel for what's going on. They send me anything that's come up since then, and then I can make further recommendations to them about what might be helpful. So a couple of people, and I can't do this regularly, but a couple of people who stayed on for some continuing regular appointments, which is not the goal of what I want this for, but I was able to do it. And, once you spend that much time with somebody, you want to keep helping them, which is the hard part. And so I give them I try to give them some resources to help, maybe some journaling prompts, books that they might want to read, podcasts that they may want to listen to. and that's kind of how it finishes up.
So this sounds incredibly valuable. So has this only been one-on-one? The person is just meeting with you? Have you ever done it in a small group?
I have not done it in a small group. That's something that I'm very interested in trying to figure out how to do. I was involved in an intensive retreat a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And we did some group processing, and it was phenomenal how it works. So I'm like, ooh, I need to get trained in that. I wonder if there's a way to incorporate that for people who are on a wait list, maybe. I don't know. I still have to get some training and figure that piece out.
So exciting. So everyone that has participated so far has been an external referral outside of the practice.
I've had one who was a current client that I just kept telling, we would talk and we would meet, and she was really stuck. And I recommended it to her. I said, I really feel like this could be beneficial for you. And she agreed. She was a former client who had come back. So we already had a relationship, and we did a full day, and the progress that she made in that one day was phenomenal. So I haven't met with her yet since that session. Since the last session of the intensive package, to see how she's doing. I think I meet with her next week. So I'm excited and hopeful that she's still
absolutely. So several thoughts. We'll start with getting the word out. So what we have found in our practice, and this has been with groups or workshops, is starting with the current caseload that your practice is serving. And so mailing list or newsletter. So there are ways to do that in a HIPAA compliant way. And you could potentially have, I know we were talking before we started recording, you have somebody that's doing some marketing for your practice, which is wonderful, and posting regularly on social media. And so having a monthly newsletter, I have found that to be effective, even once a month, where you're sharing updates within the practice. So that can also be hiring if you have clinicians that have openings or other things that you are offering as a practice. So I think that would be one. I would encourage all of your clinicians to put a flyer with all of this on the back of their doors. So when clients are leaving, that's the first thing that they see, having it in the waiting room. So I think that's another thing that could just put it at the forefront of people's minds. Also, maybe meeting briefly with each of your clinicians and just giving them a little background if you haven't already, or maybe some key phrases that they can use for any clients that they feel it would be beneficial, and that maybe you can offer some type of a free consultation with those clients to determine if they're appropriate and if you feel that they would benefit, etc. And then from there, my other thought is, as you're growing your social media following, it's almost as if you kind of reached people the way that so many people struggle to. And that really seemed to come easy to you, which is wonderful. So I almost feel like now it's the low-hanging fruit. So you already are obviously ranking well. And if you haven't already written a blog post or two about it, obviously with some backlinks, that can help tremendously. I would definitely get some testimonials. Obviously, you're not going to share the client information, but for clients that have benefited from this, straight from them, what benefits specifically they experienced that you can share on that page of your website that you have specifically about this, because we all want tangible results and to know that there's going to be a return on that investment and it's worth our time and money. Right. So those are a few thoughts. What is do any of those seem tangible, applicable?
My brain started just
I could tell.
Let me take notes real quick.
So the beauty of a podcast is you can always listen back, and we're going to have show notes with all the highlights.
Awesome.
And it doesn't all have to be done at once. I would say the big thing is you tackle something that intrigues you, and then from there you can build. Right. So we don't currently have any kind of a monthly newsletter. We do a blog, and I haven't written a blog about it, to be honest. So I need to do. I think that's always been in the back of my mind, but that also kind of goes into another part of our conversation about being able to balance everything and finding time to do things that are hard to do. So we can come back to that. But we're gonna get there.
So we've got a MailChimp account. We just haven't done anything with it. So we're not collecting emails because we're kind of still stuck on, okay, what kind of pink spoon do we need to offer, that kind of thing. So we've had some ideas, but we've not moved forward on that.
Well, so let me pause for a second.
Yeah.
What do you use for your electronic health record?
Therapy notes.
Okay, so I know with Simple Practice, we have the option of creating a spreadsheet that lists all the contact information for all the clients in the practice.
Okay.
And that makes it extremely easy to just copy the list and input into a mailing list that is HIPAA compliant. So from my understanding, MailChimp isn't, but I love it. And that's actually what I use for my consulting business. And we also use it for a newsletter that we send out to referral sources in the community. So Simple Practice has a spot where we can track where all of our referrals are coming from, and then we keep a spreadsheet of that. And so we can very easily send out a newsletter, and we adjust it slightly. So the ones that we're sending to clients is usually 2 pages. The first is an update on the practice, and the second is usually a theme for the month, whether it be gratitude for Thanksgiving, or whether it be managing dysfunctional family dynamics during the holidays, or whatever the case may be. The one with referral sources, what they want to know is what insurances we take, and do we have availability? How long is our waiting list? Are you hiring, etc. So you could definitely use it for referral sources. So I would start to track those and just keep adding. If someone provides you with their email, my understanding is that you can then utilize that. An opt-in is definitely the preferred way to go, for sure. So it sounds like you already have your gears turning on what is something free and helpful that you could offer that would be that opt-in. But you can very easily put an opt-in on your website, so you have that pop-up that comes on. And so from there, you could very easily send out an initial email with whatever that is, share it, or you could say, we're starting a mailing list, we're going to be providing the following information. If you're interested, please reply to this email, and then you can use that as your permission. So I would definitely have someone else in your practice be helping with this. And it sounds like you have that identified person. It's just what's their bandwidth right now.
Right. So then how do you get the word out to current clients? Is that just an email that you send with an attachment, something through like therapy notes? We can send it through the client portal. So at least it's HIPAA compliant, and send them the flyer. How would you recommend?
You could do that. So I'm obviously more familiar with Simple Practice, and we can't send a specific attachment through the portal. It has to be a document that is created within Simple Practice. So what we've done, we recently converted to Hushmail because we wanted an encrypted email. So what we do is we send it BCC.
Okay.
So you're sending it encrypted. No one has access to that mailing list. And I have yet to find a better way. If anybody wants to share with me a HIPAA compliant mailing list program, I am all ears.
Okay. Let me know.
Because I'm sure there's an easier way.
Right. No, it's hard with clients. I guess, I'm going to jump back to getting, this was in this conversation, the testimonials.
Yeah.
I think I get caught up on that with soliciting, having, to solicit for
I completely understand that. You have to do what feels comfortable for you. But soliciting, if you're offering rather than please fill this out, I feel like that in and of itself is a difference. And so it sounds like you have really benefited from this. And as you know, as far as credibility out there in the world, I would love to be able to share that. But if that's something you're comfortable with, great. And if it's something that you're not, that's totally fine too. That's how I've done it, and it felt okay for me, but it really is a personal preference.
Okay. All right. I was just curious about that. So I think a simple thing that you mentioned that I was like, that's a good idea, was the flyer on the back of our doors in the office.
Oh, it has helped so much because we were running into the same issue. We were running multiple groups. The clinicians would be so excited. We would create the flyer. We'd start spreading the word. And then the group wouldn't be full. And we were scratching our heads thinking, how could that be? We serve hundreds of people, and there are so many that we know within our practice are appropriate. And so we met as a team, and we talked about how they could be speaking about it in sessions with appropriate clients. We talked about it in supervision and our consultation groups. So if somebody presented a case, they seemed to be appropriate, it was being offered. But then we were thinking, what about a visual? Everybody is always so visual. So we do have a bulletin board in our waiting room that we update regularly with what's going on. But behind the door, I mean, everybody that's coming in and out is bound to see it, and it's at eye level. And yeah, I had the same, someone in my practice had suggested it. It wasn't my idea. And I thought the same thing, like that is so simple, but so effective.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with all of that being said, you alluded to this, and it's so important to spend time with this because where does it all get fit in? Like, this all sounds great. You're excited about it. You've already gotten a taste of what this can be. You've seen the benefits for people, but you also have clients that you're seeing and you're managing a practice. So that doesn't leave a lot of time. How many clients are you seeing on average a week?
It varies from week to week. The high end is 18.
Okay.
Which I've worked hard to get it down, but like next week, maybe it's because of the holiday the following week. It's just, now I look at my next week's schedule, I'm like, get a little choked up when I see it. But I can get, some weeks it's as low as 12. So,
and is that the range that you feel you need to stay at? As we know, there's a lot of considerations that go into that number, but where would you ideally like to be?
I would love to be closer to the 10 to 12 on a regular basis. I think I get caught up in how to do that with clients that I've been seeing for a while. You know, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm, you know, pushing them to the side for other things. But at some point, you know, I can only do so much, and I only have the margin and capacity for so much.
It's so true. Well, I know that you're actively hiring, and obviously you have other clinicians in the practice. So I was there. When I expanded to group, I still carried a full caseload. And then once we hired our first cluster of clinicians, it became very clear to me that in order to be the type of practice owner that I wanted to be and all of these other pursuits, I had to transition my caseload. And so I did it all at once. And obviously that's not what you have to do. But the way I did it, and I am now 2 years removed and can say with confidence, it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. So if you take an inventory of your current clients and you identify, let's say, those 5 that it would make sense to either transition or have a conversation about closing, you can keep them within the practice. And if, let's say, some went to your current clients, clinicians, and then you hired someone and they transitioned to that person. I mean, at this point, you can identify who you feel would be the right fit because you have 3 other people in your hiring. And so my thought around that was I gave my clients plenty of notice. I let them know the reason behind this transition. I let them know that you were still going to be available. So if they transitioned and it didn't go well, they can still reach out to you and that you can help them with that. And that you were the person overseeing these other clinicians. So not only do you wholeheartedly recommend them and you've seen their work and they've been with you for an extended period of time and they're qualified, but you've almost hand-selected them as a good fit. And then I talked about how we've done this work together, and it was a great opportunity to review treatment. And sometimes a transition to somebody else can be pivotal in your progress because you get a fresh perspective, you get another person who has their own experiences, and it could just be that next level in your treatment where we've kind of come to this point. You know my style, you know the strategies that I use, and now it's time for you to just soar and take it to another level. And I am happy to report that it was successful. And there were a few clients that checked in because the transition was hard for them. We had worked together for years, but I was able to support them around that transition with the new therapist. There were actually a few that I was there for the transition session because they had said that that would be really helpful. So just that you're willing to do what you can to make this successful. You're not going anywhere. You're still going to be around.
Yes, that helps too, doesn't it? Okay.
So that will free up some time. But I know that that's obviously going to be a process. So right now, do you have a designated admin day throughout the week?
No, not a full day for it.
Mm-hmm.
I have chunks of time throughout the week. Like
Okay.
Mondays, I don't start seeing clients on Mondays usually until 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 or 4 appointments. So I usually do a lot of admin work Mondays, and then I typically have time on Thursday afternoons.
Okay. So I don't know about you, but for me, I struggle to kind of put one hat on, take it off, put another hat on.
Definitely.
And so for me, if I have a set day that is kind of my admin or my creative day, or that's my designated opportunity to work on this fun stuff. Not that therapy is not fun, but it's fun in a different way.
Right.
That I look forward to it. I am better in my other roles. And I do so much better when I have a chunk of time to really delve in. And so I would start there. Pick whatever day would work best for you, but that you also think would work well for clients. You start to transition them if you can to those other days. I am here to tell you that there was a time in my life where I was working 2 days a week and seeing 24 clients. I would not recommend it, but I needed to do that for childcare and because we were co-parenting. And so the days my daughter was with me, I wanted to be with her. And the days that she was with her dad, I was able to work. And so I let my clients know, I gave them notice, like I will no longer be available on this day. These are the spots I have. Every single person took what spots were available. You already have an established relationship with these clients. They know that the therapy is quality, and so they'll make it work if they're committed. And so I would start to shift people and have a designated day for this stuff.
Okay. I think the complication comes in where, maybe because my office manager and I were talking about this earlier this week, actually. And we were kind of like, well, we could reserve like a Tuesday, all day Tuesday that could be either like intensives or work.
Oh,
and that's hard too, because I know me, I will, I don't have an intensive that day. I can slide a client into that spot. Because I think the therapist hat's a little bit heavier than all the other hats.
For sure. So I think so much of it is a mindset shift, and you're headed in a different direction, and you still enjoy the clinical work, and you still want that to be a part of your week. But I think you almost have to block off that day where it's non-clinical. And you mentioned the admin stuff needs its time as well, right? I mean, as practice owners, we can really speak to the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that really does require our full attention and some designated time on the schedule. So it could be a half and half day where maybe you get the tough stuff done first. So your morning when you're fresh is do the admin stuff. And then the second half of the day is like your reward. So from 12 o'clock on, you get to just let the creative juices flow.
No, that's good. And then, I had another question come up. How do you protect that time then? So that way you're not getting interrupted with other things going on in the practice. Do you just say, okay, I'm in the office doing this work?
Yes, I would absolutely let your team know that if Tuesdays is your day, I would really appreciate if you would all connect with one another if there's something that you feel that you can each help clinically, and maybe give some examples of what would warrant kind of that interruption, but that you really need this day, and that you're going to get back to them first thing in the morning on Wednesday. And then I think the same thing with clients. If you start to notice that it's an issue and people are expecting a response, I mean, in all reality, a 24-hour response time is appropriate in a case like this. And so, I think a lot of it is just training people as you're almost training yourself and really holding firm, because this is going to be so beneficial, not only for you, but for the practice as a whole. And if it doesn't get its own designated time, then it may not flourish as fast or in the ways that you like.
Right. And it is very hard to be creative and do write or do anything when I'm going from one thing to the next.
For sure. And I really enjoy, and it sounds like you too, I want to see something through to fruition. So if I'm working on a project, I want to get some concrete, tangible, success. And it doesn't feel great when you do a little bit here, and then you have to go here, and then here. So the interruptions are extremely distracting. And then we don't feel great about what it is that we're doing because it hasn't gotten our full attention. So use that do not disturb, quiet everything else. Everybody knows, right now, the clinicians that you've been there, you had told me the majority, it's 2 years. So they know kind of the lay of the land and what to do.
Right.
And so it's really emergencies only.
Yeah, and they're not ones who really interrupt my day too much. So, they don't have a lot.
I think it's more just a reminder than anything.
Yeah.
And then block it out on your schedule.
Right.
Because I know for us in simple practice, like we can each kind of see those blocks.
Yes.
And so I think that'll also just solidify that message.
Right.
And I'm so excited for you. This is awesome. So any other final thoughts? I know we covered a lot of ground.
No, I think you've given me a lot of good things to think about, some new things to think about, simple things to actually put into place. And that's been really helpful. So I appreciate the time.
I'm so glad. Well, and it's also helpful for me to have these conversations because I'm not always great at reflecting back. Like I have my head down and I'm working on what I'm working on. And this is so helpful to pick my head up and think, okay, so there are some things that even I could be putting into practice that I'm suggesting. And there are some that I have and I've reaped the benefits. So I'm coming from a place of, I've been there.
Sure.
So I really appreciate the question. I love what it is that you are doing. I will definitely follow along. So for those who are intrigued, that are interested, let them know how they can find you and get more information.
Sure. Yeah. You can reach out to me via email. It's Ann at upstaterestorativecounseling.com. And we have social media, so both Instagram and Facebook. So, if you want to find us on there and follow us, that would be great. And we also have our website, so upstaterestorativecounseling.com.
Right. I will include all of that to make it very easy. Thank you so much, Ann. I'm grateful that we connected. I love everything you have going on, and I'm definitely going to stay tuned. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Julia.
Absolutely.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.